What if I told you that going silent wasn't the blow you thought it was? That cutting her off doesn't shatter her ego the way you hoped. I used to believe silence was power. That if I vanished, she'd break. That my absence would haunt her, make her regret ever walking away from the man who was loyal, all in, and real. But the truth is, she expects it. She's seen it before. She's ready for men to disappear. What she isn't ready for is what comes after. The version of you that rises from rejection with no need for revenge. The man who stops bleeding and starts building. You don't crush her ego by going quiet. You crush it by becoming unreachable. By turning every ounce of pain into power and refusing to play the same emotional games. This isn't about getting her back. This is about making sure she never forgets what she lost. If you've had enough of being haunted by her memory and you're ready to flip the script without saying a single word, hit that like button, subscribe to Stoic Blessing, turn on notifications, and comment below, I rise from rejection. Now let's begin. Law number 1. You're not grieving her. You're grieving the illusion. The fantasy you built in your own mind. The woman you thought she was, the version of her that touched your soul, that promised forever with soft words and deep looks. But that version never truly existed. That was your creation. A story you told yourself because you were loyal, because you needed to believe someone finally saw the real you. But when she walked away, she didn't just leave you behind. She left you questioning your own worth. And that's the wound. Not the breakup. Not the silence. The self-doubt. The emptiness that whispers maybe you weren't enough. That's the illusion you need to burn. Because every time you replay the memories, every time you read old messages and hold on to her laugh or her touch, you're feeding that lie. You're keeping her on a pedestal she no longer deserves to stand on. You are not crying over her. You are crying over who you thought she was. Over who you believed she could be. That's not love. That's attachment. And it's time to let that go. If you want to crush her ego, you need to stop worshiping the image that broke you. She was never your soulmate. She was your mirror. She showed you where your boundaries ended. Where your self-respect faded. Where your desperation began. That's her role in your life. She wasn't the one. She was the lesson. The one that taught you that loving someone's potential is the fastest way to lose yourself. So stop replaying it. Stop romanticizing the chaos. Stop giving your loyalty to someone who only taught you pain. You need to see her clearly now. Not through the fog of emotion but through the clarity of what actually happened. She didn't love you the way you needed. She loved the attention. The comfort. The control. And when it stopped serving her, she left. That's not rare. That's not special. That's ego. And your healing starts the moment you burn the illusion. When you finally tell yourself the truth. She didn't break your heart. She exposed the parts of you that needed healing. She revealed the places you had no boundaries. That pain is your compass now. Use it to build yourself again. This time without lies. This time without fantasy. This time with eyes wide open. Burn the illusion and let her fade into smoke. What remains will be you. Raw, real, reborn. That's how it starts. Not with revenge. Not with words. With fire. Law number 2. Become unreachable. Not just in the physical sense, but in the emotional one. Anyone can go no contact. Anyone can block a number, mute a story, walk away. That's easy. That's expected. But if you want to truly crush her ego, if you want to leave a mark that makes her question everything, you have to vanish from her reach completely. That means no subtle signals. No cryptic posts hoping she's watching. No late-night quotes designed to sting. No digital breadcrumbs that scream, "I still care." Because the moment she knows you're reacting, even in silence, she wins. Her ego feeds on that. It craves it. Even the bitterness, even the heartbreak, it's still fuel to her. But when you become unreachable, when you pull your energy away so completely that she doesn't know what you feel, what you think, or what you're planning, you break her script. You become the void that she can't fill, can't read, can't control. That mystery, that silence, that emotional blackout, it becomes unbearable. She starts to wonder. She starts to spiral. Because a man who goes silent is forgettable, but a man who stops caring is unforgettable. You're not cold. You're clear. You're not hiding. You're healing. You're not playing a game. You've walked off the field. You don't chase updates about her. You don't ask mutual friends what she's doing. You reclaim your peace like it's sacred. Because it is. You protect your energy like your life depends on it. Because it does. And the deeper you go into that calm, focused, grounded detachment, the more she feels the loss, not of your voice, but of your presence. Because the truth is, her ego isn't crushed when you leave. It's crushed when she realizes she no longer has influence over you. That's when the panic begins. When the doubt creeps in. When she finally understands you're not just gone, you're gone for real. Not lost. Not waiting. Just done. That's the power of being unreachable. She can scroll. She can post. She can try to trigger something. But when nothing comes back, when she gets silence that doesn't shake, that's when it hits. She didn't just lose attention. She lost access. Forever. Law number 3. Master the void. Most men crumble in silence. They treat it like a prison, pacing back and forth, waiting for her to reach out, for her to regret, for the story to rewind. But silence is not your punishment. It is your rebirth. It is the dark room where you meet your real self. The version of you that loved without holding back. The one who bled quietly, hoping she'd see your worth. But she didn't. She left you in pieces, and now here you are. Not because you're broken, but because you're being forged. This is not the time to scroll through memories or craft posts for her attention. This is the time to look at the mirror and say, this is what remains when everything false is burned away. Mastering the void means turning inward. It means taking back every ounce of energy you poured into someone who never deserved it. While she's out there laughing for her story, trying to look unfazed, you become the man she never saw coming. The one who doesn't need an audience to evolve. You hit the gym with rage in your muscles and silence in your eyes. You build your craft without showing it off. You grind so hard that the man you were a month ago wouldn't even recognize you. You stop checking her page. You stop wondering who she's with. You stop giving her a place in your thoughts. Because this space is sacred now. This is your temple. And a stoic man guards his temple with discipline. While she plays games, you play life. While she seeks attention, you build respect. While she looks outward, you go inward. You detach from needing anyone, and you start building a version of you that even she couldn't fantasize. And then it happens. The shift. Not in her, but in you. You walk differently. Speak slower. Breathe deeper. You no longer react. You move with intention. And though she may not know it yet, she will feel it. She will hear about your focus. She will scroll and see your silence, heavy with meaning. And in that silence, her ego won't find comfort. It will find a void she can't penetrate. Not because you're gone, but because you've become unreachable. And that void you mastered, it becomes your kingdom. The place where pain was turned into power. Where heartbreak became hunger. Where the silence didn't kill you. It crowned you. Law number 4. Become her mirror. You don't crush her ego by speaking. You crush it by reflecting. Most men chase closure like it's oxygen. They send long messages, hoping she understands the pain she caused, hoping she finally gets it. But that is not power. That is a man still chained to her approval. A man still hoping to be seen. You want to shake her to her core. You say nothing. You become a silent mirror, holding up every decision she made without needing to explain a thing. Let her see the damage in your absence. Let her sit in the silence that used to echo with your loyalty. This is where most break, but not you. You stop reacting. You stop explaining. You stop feeding her ego with your pain. And in doing that, you become something she cannot twist. You become the consequence. You don't argue, you don't beg, you don't remind. You disappear without a storm, but your absence becomes thunder. A storm that lives inside her own mind. That is the mirror. The look on your face that is no longer filled with ache. The energy you carry that doesn't chase. The peace you hold that she can't disrupt. When she sees you living without her, not to prove a point but because she no longer fits, that's when regret claws at her chest. She starts remembering your steadiness, your presence, your patience. And now it haunts her. Not because you shouted. Not because you slammed the door. But because you became untouchable without ever lifting your voice. Your silence becomes the final word. She expected a fight, a cry, a moment of weakness. But what she got was the realization that she's now looking into a reflection of herself, and it's cold, clear, and cruel. She played games, and you became the rule. Not by fighting, but by standing still while she walked herself into the truth. That you didn't change to win her back. You changed because she showed you exactly who not to be weak for again. Law number 5. Withdraw all validation. Her ego does not feed on silence alone, it feeds on your reactions, your subtle hints, your quiet desperation. Every time you post something you hope she sees, every time you check her profile, every time you speak her name in frustration, you are still feeding the fire that she thinks she controls. The truth is, many women do not need your presence to feel powerful. They need to know they still affect you. That you are still caught in their gravity. The moment you truly want to crush her ego, you must cut the supply. That means no more energy sent her way. No quotes to sting her heart, no cryptic stories designed to show her what she lost. You do not explain your growth. You embody it. You do not flaunt your glow up. You become the kind of man who no longer seeks permission to rise. When she checks, and she will check, there will be no message waiting, no subtle nod to her existence. Just space, silence, and a version of you she no longer recognizes. You are not being petty. You are being deliberate. You are not showing indifference. You are living it. Attention is a currency and you are no longer offering handouts. A Stoic man does not advertise his progress to an audience that no longer deserves front row seats. When you withdraw your validation, her ego starves. Not because you insulted her, but because you erased the mirror she used to see herself through. She will wonder. She will scroll. But all she will find is that she is not part of your story anymore. That is the wound her ego cannot heal. You are no longer reacting. You are choosing. And you choose peace over pettiness. Discipline over drama. Distance over displays. What once hurt you now fuels you. What once needed to be said now needs only to be felt. Your silence has weight. Your absence has a pulse. And your restraint becomes the loudest sound she hears. Let her remember you not as the man who couldn't let go, but as the man who mastered detachment so deeply that even her memory could not touch him. Law number 6. Transmute the pain into power. What she did may have cut deep, but it was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to wake you up. That heartbreak, that betrayal, that gut punch moment where she walked away without looking back, it wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a fire. And now you have a choice. You can sit in the wreckage, replaying the lies, drowning in regret, or you can do what very few men have the strength to do. You can transmute it. You can take every sleepless night, every memory that once crushed you, and melt it down into fuel. Not to chase her. Not to prove her wrong. But to build the version of you she never believed could exist. The version that no longer needs her apology, her attention, or her validation. This is not about revenge. This is resurrection. Real, relentless, rebirth. You go deeper into your grind. You build discipline like armor. You turn solitude into strength. She doesn't get to witness the journey. She doesn't get to share in the result. All she will feel is distance. And that distance will scream. When she sees you again, it won't be in person. It'll be through whispers. Through photos. Through stories from mutual friends. She will hear your name and wonder how the man she once knew turned into someone she can't even reach anymore. That's transmutation. Turning emotional ruin into unstoppable momentum. You don't grow in her shadow. You rise above it. You lift heavier. Think clearer. Move with intent. And all the while, she fades. Not because you wanted her to, but because she no longer fits in the world you built without her. You become the man who doesn't chase healing. He becomes healing. A storm with calm eyes and a steel heart. And when she finally realizes what she lost, it won't be sadness that hits her. It'll be the haunting truth that she never broke you. She made you. And now, she'll spend the rest of her life trying to forget a man she once thought she could walk away from. Law number 7. Become the man she can't replace. She may have walked away thinking she could do better, thinking you were just another man she could forget, another name she could replace like changing clothes. But she didn't realize she was making a mistake that would haunt her in silence. Law number 7 is not about becoming a better man for her, it's about becoming a man for yourself so powerful, so irreplaceable, that no matter who she runs to next, they all feel like weak copies. You do this not by chasing success for show, not by trying to trigger her jealousy, but by locking into your purpose so deeply that everything about you begins to radiate a kind of masculine gravity. You become the man who doesn't flinch, who doesn't need validation, who doesn't explain himself. You stop reacting to life and begin directing it. The man who doesn't collapse under emotion, who doesn't seek attention, who walks into rooms with presence, not noise. That kind of man becomes unforgettable. While she spins in circles, entertaining temporary attention, you become rooted. While she lives through stories and games, you build silently. That difference grows louder with time. The kind of man who values peace over drama, purpose over performance, presence over approval, that man is rare. And rare things, once lost, create regret that lingers. She might laugh now. She might scroll and act unbothered. But deep down, she'll know she lost something no one else offers. The man you become doesn't chase closure. He lives in such alignment that even her ego won't be able to lie to her. She'll see it, not in your words, but in your evolution. And when she finally understands what she gave up, it'll be too late. You won't be angry. You'll be untouchable. You don't respond. You don't react. You rise. You move so far forward that the man she knew doesn't exist anymore. And that realization, that loss of access to something extraordinary, is what will crush her ego the most. Law number 8. Build a new identity in shadow. You don't transform under spotlights. You don't evolve through applause. Law number 8 is about silent resurrection. When everything breaks, when she walks away, when you're left with nothing but the echo of what once was, that's not your downfall. That's your forge. This is the part she will never see and never understand. While she's out there showing off, pretending she's unbothered, you disappear not to escape, but to rebuild. You don't post cryptic quotes. You don't beg for attention. You vanish because what's coming next doesn't need to be seen to be real. In the shadows, you strip away the version of you that needed her validation. You break the addiction to being chosen. You stop performing and start constructing a life that makes you proud when nobody's watching. Your routine gets sharper. Your goals grow louder. But you stay silent. You let go of the parts of yourself that used to chase, that used to explain, that used to doubt. In that darkness, your identity is no longer wrapped around her memory. It's wrapped around your mission. You sleep with discipline. You eat with intention. You move with purpose. And every step you take deeper into your evolution, you bury the boy she thought she could play with. You don't flaunt your rise. You embody it. And when your name comes up in a conversation, when your image appears on a screen, when mutuals mention your glow, she won't recognize you. That confusion, that disbelief, that's the beginning of the sting. Because she didn't just lose someone who loved her. She lost the man who used the pain she caused to unlock his greatness. And now, she's just a ghost watching from the sidelines while you become the version of yourself you were always meant to be. This isn't about revenge. This is about rebirth. Quiet. Focused. Relentless. She's no longer part of your transformation, and that's exactly what will break her. Law number 9. Let her watch from afar. You don't need to hide. You don't need to block her. Law number 9 is about letting her watch the man she can never touch again. After you've rebuilt yourself in silence, after you've turned the pain into purpose, you let her see it. Not directly, not by trying to catch her eye, but by living so fully that her ego cracks from a distance. She was used to you chasing. She was used to being the center of your gravity. But now, she watches without access. That's where the real torment begins. You don't throw shade. You don't post thirst traps hoping she bites. You move like a man who no longer performs for an audience. Your progress is not a show. It's a shift. You've detached so deeply, so cleanly, that her name no longer carries weight in your mind. And yet, she sees you. Maybe not right away. But eventually, she scrolls. She hears. She notices. And when she does, it won't be your silence that destroys her. It'll be what your silence produced. She thought you would stay stuck. She thought you would fade. But instead, you became everything she thought you couldn't. And now, she's stuck on the outside looking in, realizing too late that she never really knew who she left behind. That absence, that emotional distance, becomes heavier than your presence ever was. Because now you're a man she can't manipulate, can't reach, can't even understand. That's when the panic sets in. Not when you were gone, but when you were reborn. And she's not invited. So you keep building. Keep posting like she's not watching. Because this life isn't for her anymore. It's for you. You don't need her to feel regret. You need to keep rising so her regret becomes unavoidable. That's not pettiness. That's power. That's how you break her ego without saying a word. Law number 10. Forgive for power, not peace. Forgiveness is not weakness. It's the final strike, the moment you stop bleeding and start rebuilding. Law number 10 is not about letting her off the hook. It's about letting yourself off the leash. You forgive not because she deserves it, but because your soul deserves to breathe again. She left you carrying the weight of questions, of anger, of shattered trust. But the moment you choose forgiveness, you set that weight down and walk forward free. She expected you to stay bitter. She expected you to hold a grudge, to rage in silence, to drown in resentment. But when you show her nothing but peace, when you move like she never mattered enough to break you, that is when her ego collapses. Forgiveness is not softness. It's the steel will of a man who refuses to be controlled by pain. It's choosing not to live in a loop she created. It's telling the world, and yourself, that your story didn't end in heartbreak. It began there. Because when you forgive, you disconnect. You detach so deeply that her name becomes irrelevant. And she can feel it. Not because you told her. Not because you posted about it. But because the energy that once tied you to her has vanished. She is no longer your wound. She is your lesson. Your transformation. And the silence that follows forgiveness. That is deafening. It's louder than any scream, more painful than any goodbye. Because now she knows the one thing she never wanted to believe. That she no longer has a hold on you. You didn't just survive. You transcended. That is the death blow to her ego. You forgave, not to mend things, but to rise untouched. And when she realizes she doesn't get to rent space in your mind anymore, when she sees you thriving with no trace of bitterness, that's when the regret hits. That's when the storm she created turns inward. You're not broken. You're untouchable. And she's not part of your future. She's just the reason you found your strength. Outro. You thought no contact was the end. But silence was just the beginning. If you've made it this far, then you already know. This wasn't about her. It was never about her. It was about you. About the pain she left behind and the man who rose from its ashes. You thought cutting her off would be enough to make her feel what you felt. But pain alone doesn't rebuild a man. Discipline does. Focus does. Silence, weaponized with purpose, does. You don't win by waiting for her to notice. You win when you no longer need her to. Every law you just heard was a step into your own rebirth. A blueprint to stop reacting and start becoming. Not a man who gets even, but a man who evolves so far beyond her reach that even her regrets can't catch up. You were loyal. You were all in. And she walked away like you were disposable. But now, you've become unforgettable. You don't just disappear. You vanish from her emotional radar. You no longer exist in her game. You became the lesson. You became the consequence. You became the man who never looks back. So if something in you woke up while listening, if you felt your spine straighten, your breath steady, your silence grow louder, then don't just sit there. Let this moment be the beginning of your rise. Hit that like button. Subscribe to Stoic Blessing. Turn on notifications so you never miss a step on this path of quiet power. And comment below with these words, I rise in silence and never return. Because from this day forward, you are not the man she left behind. You are the man she will never find again.